It's fitting. I've started the women's ice hockey question, so I'm a beat reporter. Volleyball question, I'm a beat reporter
too. That is how they design it, yeah.
What creates offense?
Defense.
What creates defense?
Offense.
No, the goalie in the back of the net.
So you're crazy. I like you, but you're crazy because
at least if you're going to pick a trap game, pick the right ones.
Little fast footwork. I know your feet don't move that fast.
Brady, that's all flash, no pass. She didn't net it in the back of the net. That's not even a goal.
What are you doing pulling out Ryan?
Brady.
Are you ready for some debate? This Bobcat Breakdown starts right now.
Welcome to Studio 125 for this semester's final episode of Bobcat Breakdown. I'm your host, Katrina Jablonski, and alongside me is Eli Ehlers and Zach Naffa. Guys, how are we feeling tonight?
You know, Zach, it's been a fun year. Final show of the year. Let's end it on a good note. I'm excited.
I spent so much time with, especially you, but the both of you this entire year. I couldn't think of a better way to cap the year off.
Yeah, let's get into it.
Let's do it.
So let's get right into our debate. Since her start as the head coach for women's tennis back in 2013, Paula Miller has notched only 2 in-conference losses over 75 games, going completely undefeated in the 2025 season. With a record like that, do you guys think that Paula Miller is the best coach on campus? Eli, let's start with you.
Naf, question time.
Okay.
How many days do you think it was from her first MAC win as head coach to her first MAC loss in the regular season?
All right, let me do some quick math. I'd say around 2,560.
Nope.
No? 3,000.
3,104 days.
Okay.
Can you think of any other coach who went that long in their tenure as a head coach without losing a game?
Well, it's a conference game.
Okay, a conference game. Yep.
No, I can't. I don't even know what I was doing 3,000 days ago. I don't want to know.
I don't either. It was actually October 12th, 2013. I believe I was
probably the Red Sox.
Yeah, I was probably in school that day, if I remember correctly. My memory's not the best, but yes, she is the best coach on campus right now. Yes, tennis isn't the biggest program, but I think the legacy she has created and the dominance she has had, like Kat mentioned, only 2 losses in the regular season in MAC play. She is a very strong coach, and the biggest thing is she leads her team by that example of what she wants from a program. And I think, yes, other coaches on campus are fantastic, but I think when you look at her pedigree, I think she has to be it for me.
I can't fully disagree with you. Again, 12 years, only 11 of them were there actually postseason tournaments. 11 MAC tournaments, where she made all of them. All of them went to the finals. 10 regular season titles, 8 conference titles. The 2 regular season conferences, only lost 3 times in the MAC tournament. The only thing that I can bring up as an argument against 0-7 in NCAA regional games so far. Has a chance to change that upcoming after making it this year. But if you look on a national scale, again, conference records are great. Rand Pecknold, men's ice hockey, more NCAA tournament success, 3 Frozen Fours, a national title, has won multiple games, multiple years in, along with regular season success. Not to the same level, but again, it's regular season. How much do you really value conference titles? And then, again, Becky Carlson with rugby, a 3-time national champion. So it depends on your criteria. I think that there's no way you can dispute that Paula Miller has the track record to be the best coach because, again, year in, year out, game-to-game basis, match-to-match, I guess to say with tennis, she is the best. I just think that, again, if you look on the national scale, there's an argument to be made for either Pecknold or Carlson.
No, I completely agree with you. I think when you look at from the national side of it, yes, but I think the other thing people don't factor in, especially with hockey, is that team gets a lot more money than a tennis program gets. So you have to think about that as well. And don't get me wrong, Rand Pecknold is a phenomenal coach. I just think when you look at what Paula Miller has to work with, that legacy she has built, in my opinion, is bigger than what
I just think it speaks to the quality of coaches that are at Quinnipiac, especially across the board. We haven't even mentioned Trisha Fabry, among others. So
yeah, exactly.
So on Sunday afternoon, the acrobatics and tumbling team won 2 individual national titles, winning the 6-element acro and the trio tumbling events at the 2025 NCATA individual event finals. So who do you guys feel is the season's most valuable player? Eli, start us off again.
So Zach, it's got to be Hallie Fowler for me.
Okay.
She's an All-American, and a big thing that I was talking to acrobatics and tumbling beat reporters, and they were telling me, without that strong base, you're not really getting anywhere, and she is that base for this Quinnipiac team. She was a part of the individual event championship, and the biggest thing is that, yes, I know you're likely about to say Mia Rose King, and she scored a perfect 10. I get that. But Hallie Fowler was a part of 6 heats that scored a 9.5 or 0. Or excuse me, a 9.50. In my opinion, you want a player on your team who is going to provide that consistency. And that is why, in my opinion, she is the team MVP.
So I'm very glad you're making my argument for me. But
Okay.
again, you're right. I am going to go Mia Rose King,
Okay.
NCATA All-American in Week 6. She was the NCATA Specialist of the Week with that perfect 10, as you mentioned.
Okay.
But I've got a question, Eli. What good is a good base without a good top? And Mia Rose King is one of the best tops in the nation. She is returned for her 5th year, key for leadership for the Quinnipiac squad, helping train first year Anna Sullivan to set up for the future. So her achievements are more than just on the mats. She's someone that is vocal and can help bridge in the gap to this new group. And you mentioned good scores this weekend. 6-element Acro score, 9.77. Really good. Also won the inversion pyramid 2 years ago. I know we're talking about this year, but to have that level of success as well as ushering in that new group and really going forward, I think neither pick is a bad pick. But again, you can have a good base, but if the top isn't performing up, then they're not going to win anything.
No, I agree. But I think another thing for me with Hallie Fowler that gives her that advantage for me is look at what she's about to go do. She's about to become a head coach at Manhattan University and build that program up. In my opinion, she has been that leader for Quinnipiac all year long. Don't get me wrong, Mia Rose King is a phenomenal athlete, and she deserves her flowers. But I think with Hallie Fowler, she has that leadership aspect, and she commands that team. That's why I think she's the MVP in my
I think
mind.
King does the too. You know what? It's more like a chicken and the egg type of situation. You can't have one without the other.
Exactly.
Well, that was some great debate, guys. Now we have to head to our first commercial break, but when we return, we will be taking a look around and reminiscing on the best teams on campus. Stay with us.
No, I'm not gambling!
Live from the Piazza, it's Quinnipiac tonight!
Love the hustle, Cliff. Who are you?
Your lungs.
We're quite proud of you.
Even though you quit smoking years ago, you may be at risk for lung cancer.
Okay. Well, with the routine screening, you can detect it early when it's more curable.
Sounds good, guys. Can I get a little space here?
Biologically, no.
Okay.
Listen to your lungs. Get a routine screening that could save your life. Talk to your doctor and learn more at savedbythescan.org.
I don't remember how it started.
Go to that.
Our back and forth. It always came back.
Dad!
You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
Welcome back to Bobcat Breakdown. It's time to take a stroll around campus and have Eli and Zach take their picks at who they think is the best team per location. Starting things off with the Quinnipiac Soccer and Lacrosse Stadium, of the 4 teams who split the field, those being the men's and women's soccer teams and the men's and women's lacrosse teams, who do you guys think is the best team?
Well, since we gave you the first two, I'll start us off on this one. I'm going to go with women's soccer. They were the best team this year by comparison. MAC championship appearance, 2 first-team All-MAC selections, 3 second-team All-MAC selections, 2 third-team All-MAC selections. The accolades go up and down that roster. Sofia Lospinoso, the Golden Glove winner, best save percentage in the MAC. She was nails in net all year long. And while they had the expectation to go and win a 3rd straight MAC title, I just think when you look at the overall body of work, men's lacrosse could change that depending on what they do in the postseason. But I don't think there's a way you can compare the women's lacrosse team or the men's soccer team to the women's soccer team when you look at the success by the team as well as the individuals. And Dave Clark has just ingrained this culture with success that a MAC finals loss is considered bad for their standards. And again, it's not bad. It's very good. And he even said after the season that they were proud of the effort that they put forward.
I completely agree with you, and you sort of took the words out of my mouth. I think women's soccer had a phenomenal season, but for the expectations that are on this team now, knowing that they had a chance to three-peat, that doesn't do it for me. For me, I went women's lacrosse.
Okay.
Because when you look at last year, 2-13, okay? This year they're 10-8, and yes, they lost in the playoffs. I get that. But this team has gone so far. In Jordan Christopher's first year as head coach, that's just amazing to me to be able to take that program and really flip it 180, knowing that they were so abysmal last year. But the other thing you have to look at is the first-year talent that came in. Shannon Alden has been one of the best goalies, not just across the MAC, across the NCAA. She was putting up top 10 numbers in multiple statistics as the goaltender for this team as a first year. So I think it has to be women's lacrosse.
The one thing there is you mentioned the expectations. It's very easy to perform when you don't have those expectations. I know they didn't win the MAC tournament, but women's soccer had those expectations that were set so high following an undefeated season that I think that even though they fell short, just comparing it. Again, women's lacrosse, great season, just don't think it matches up
I'm going to have
against
to
women's
cut you off there, Zach. However, heading inside to Burcon Court to both the women's volleyball and acrobatics tumbling team, which stood out more to you guys?
So Zach,
oh boy,
similar to what we just talked about, expectations. The expectation for acrobatics and tumbling is to get to the highest stage. They made it to nationals. That's great. They didn't get to the final. In my opinion, it has to be volleyball, knowing the circumstances that they had. And hear me out. Hear me out. When you lose the preseason player of the year 4 games into your season, not into conference play yet, no one expects you to go that far. And not only did they dominate the regular season, they earned that first round bye and made it to the MAC championship. Yes, they lost to Fairfield, but I think the expectations for this team was nowhere near what they were able to accomplish. So for me, it has to be volleyball.
So you lose the MAC preseason player of the year, and then you have Elena Giacomini have become MAC player of the year. I don't think you can compare that because she stepped up when they weren't projected to do so. So I think that, yeah, they had a good season, but again, losing in the tournament. Quinnipiac, Acro, and tumbling, if I remember correctly, was picked third originally. They finished third behind Oregon and Baylor. So I think that, again, they met their expectations. We just talked about having All-Americans in Fowler and Miros King, but on top of that, they had 2 individual event national titles. I know volleyball doesn't have individual titles, but to have 2 individual event titles in a season where you were picked third, I think just speaks to the talent that they have on that roster. And that, in my opinion, they met expectations, whereas volleyball, they can't seem to get over that Fairfield hump after beating them in 2022.
So going up to M&T Bank Arena and looking at the Frank Perotti junior rank, both the men's and women's ice hockey teams competed and made playoff runs, but fell short in the end. But who do you guys feel was the better team?
I don't see how you disagree with me on this one. I'm going with men's ice hockey.
Okay,
NCAA tournament appearance, Cleary Cup. I know they didn't win the Whitelock Cup. They very much struggle in Lake Placid year after year. But again, their season compared to the women's hockey team not even making the NCAA tournament, I don't see how they can stack up.
I completely agree. And I think the biggest thing for me is Rand Pecknold said after they lost to UConn, this was a reload year for them. And they still made it that far. That's the biggest thing for me that puts them over the top over women's.
Significant roster turnover and still having pretty good success.
Exactly.
So heading to the hardwood, Lender Court supported the men's and women's basketball teams this year. Which team outshined the other, though?
I hope we're in agreement here. If it's not women's basketball.
Okay.
Okay, good. The biggest thing for me, they ended Fairfield's 42-game max streak. No one thought they were beating Fairfield.
Yeah.
And they did that. That's the biggest thing for me.
And there wasn't a lot of stakes in that game because both were 1 and 2 respectively already, but picked to finish 4th in the preseason poll. They finished 2nd and made a MAC finals appearance after a season last year where they didn't have the best year to their standards. Again, I just think they overachieved, whereas men's basketball underachieved, not even making the MAC finals once again.
And the other thing for me, real quick, with women's basketball, their depth was what stood out to me. Men's basketball didn't have that depth.
They did not.
So both the men's and women's tennis teams went completely undefeated and clinched the MAC championship this year. But with identical seasons, which team created more of an impact for you?
I'm going to go with women's tennis. Again, they have won so much. We just talked about how great Paula Miller is, and now you're going to say no. They had the player of the year and the rookie of the year in the MAC in Willow Renton, and then also had the coach of the year in Miller. Also, 2 first-teamers, including Renton, as also with the doubles partner, and then 5 second teams. They dominated in the awards column. They dominated on the court. I don't see how you can take, again, great season for men's tennis, but that was just pure dominance, which is come to be expected of women's tennis.
So you're only going to say men's tennis had a great year. That's the adjective.
They had a phenomenal, outstanding, phenomenal. Pick your adjective.
Please,
women's
thank
tennis
you.
was even better.
I disagree that they were better.
How so?
Fairfield almost beat Quinnipiac women's tennis in the finals.
Did they?
They did, but hear me out. Men's tennis dominated. They won 4-1. There was not a single team in the MAC play that really gave them a run for their money. And the biggest thing for me is you have Elias Hoxa, who is a first year, who stepped up and was
Renton's a first-year Player of the Year.
What?
Player of the Year as a first year in Renton in the women's side.
Okay, I don't disagree with you, but I think when you look at the turnover that men's tennis had compared to the turnover that women's tennis had, it's got to be men's tennis.
I think they both had excellent seasons, but when you have the player, rookie, and coach, all three major awards go to you, as well as having 7 All-MAC team selections, I don't see how you can argue there.
Well, while that was some pretty heated debate, we're finally going to turn to the softball having their best season in recent years, going 14-8 in conference play, and baseball going 14-7 in conference play as well. Which team performed better on the diamond?
Zach, it has to be baseball.
It does
and
not.
hear me out. You're going to say softball because they're having one of their best programs in history. Guess what? They really haven't had all that great of seasons in the past. So yes, they're having their best season in history, but it doesn't take a lot to have that best season. Baseball did not have the expectation of being in that 3 slot in the MAC right now, and they've dominated throughout the year. Yes,
They were still picked to make the playoffs.
I agree they were still picked to make the playoffs, but I don't think anyone expected them to be this dominant. The biggest thing for me is that their returners have stepped up. When you look at guys like CJ Willis and Christian Smith and Sebastian Muller, they are the guys that the team turns to. And unless I'm wrong here, I don't think softball has that player who is their guy that they turn to every single time and does everything that they need.
Well, I would disagree here because, again, their best season under Hillary Smith, as well as their best program season, 14 MAC wins so far, are very likely to make the MAC tournament. And then Sophia Vega, hitting 271 this year after 239 last year, wasn't necessarily an everyday player, only had 7 extra base hits, no home runs. This season, leads the team with 4 home runs and has 13 extra base hits after struggling in that department last year. She's been a catalyst for this offense for a team that is very much overperforming. And you want to talk about someone that goes out there every day and performs? How about Sydney Horan? Name one player on the baseball team that is going to go out there and give you their best every single day, no matter what. Horan has carried this team on her back year in and year out, and this year it's finally paying off with some teammates around her.
See, the difference is for me with baseball pitchers, they have that depth right now.
Well, I think we need a breather here on desk, but stay with us because when we return in 90 seconds, we will continue to recap the 2024-2025 season.
Guys, we had to make a commercial for #that right now. What do we do?
How long do we have? We only had 2 months to do this.
We could explain that it's a pop culture news show that covers everything from movies, music, and video games.
Yeah, and we can also talk about how there's pre-recorded segments that vary from reviews to in-depth discussions.
We should also mention that it broadcasts live every Monday at 7 p.m. on q30tv.com/watch.
I think that covers everything. Did you guys get that down?
Reporting from the Grove for Q30 News.
Reporting from the Miller Library for Q30 News.
Reporting from the Mount Carmel campus for Q30 News.
Reporting on Whitney Ave for Q30 News.
Welcome back to Bobcat Breakdown. If you guys are just joining us, I'm Katrina Jablonski, joined alongside Eli Ehlers and Zach Naffa. With this semester coming to a close, it is time for myself and the rest of the QBSN e-board to say goodbye and reflect on all the success we had this year.
My favorite memory from QBSN this year is definitely just seeing everyone each Wednesday and all the fun that we had together at the meetings.
My favorite QBSN memory this year is all the great meetings we had in SB 123, and also going to Sacred Heart to cover the CT Ice tournament in the game against UConn. Although we lost, it was a great game.
I enjoyed really working with all of you this year, especially those on eBoard. It was great. We were able to turn out 3 magazines And I think my favorite moments were definitely just being in the e-board meetings, getting to experience that environment. And
one of my favorite memories from QBSN this year was when I was able to call Quinnipiac men's basketball versus Maine men's basketball. It was really cool to get to see some players and even some staff members, people that I know personally from Maine. It was just a really cool experience, one of the great experiences that QBSN has to offer. But I'm also...
My favorite QBSN memory this year was being able to travel down to Fairfield, Connecticut for the Nutmeg Classic. Quinnipiac didn't win the whole tournament, but it was a super fun time being able to broadcast both games.
This year was so much fun for me to be chairman of QBSN. If it wasn't for the support of general members and the e-board, I wouldn't have been able to do it. I'm so glad we all had such an amazing time together. My favorite memory would have to be MK the GOAT versus Luke Sennett in the 1v1.
A lot of good moments, a lot of good memories this year with the people on e-board and the whole crew at QBSN, but the one that sticks out to me is having to play one-on-one basketball with Luke Sennett, our new chairman. Didn't go so well for me, but helped people get involved, call the action. You know, it was a great time. But yeah, best of luck to the new e-board for next year, and I'll miss you guys a ton. But I know you guys will do great things.
I couldn't agree more with what my fellow e-board members have said. This year has been an absolute blast serving as one of the 2 social media managers, and I cannot wait to continue the job going into next year alongside Anthony Rossi, as well as see all the amazing work both new chairman Luke Sennett and the rest of the board will produce. But let's get back into the debate. As the year comes to an end, I think we can all agree that there have been some pretty high energy matchups that have made for some great games, making it hard to pick just one as the favorite, but that's exactly what we are going to do. So, what has been the best Quinnipiac game of the year? Eli, care to start?
Zach, got a little curveball for you here.
Oh, here we go.
I went with a loss.
Okay.
Women's soccer, 1-0 loss to Stonehill.
I'm glad you know I couldn't hit the curveball or a fastball in high school when I played baseball. But
I can't hit a ball, so that's okay. The biggest thing for this game, yes, they lost. Was it an incredibly exciting game? Not necessarily, but the biggest thing for me was this was the turning point of their season. From that point on, they went 10 straight games without giving up a goal. That was a bit of a turning point for them to be able to realize, yes, we've won back-to-back MAC championships, but we need to actually be able to come into every game and have the heart. Because yes, they outplayed Stonehill, but Stonehill outworked them at times, and I think that was the biggest key for me, was the fact that this was a bit of a wake-up call. If Quinnipiac had then lost the next game, this wouldn't be my game of the year, but I think this helped them spin their season in the direction that it needed to go.
Yeah, Dave Clark referenced this game quite a bit in his post-game interviews afterwards, in those games after, but I don't think that the game of the year is going to be a 1-0 loss at an away game. I want something a little more exciting, something that actually makes you want to stand up out of your seat, drop your popcorn all over the place. I'm going men's soccer, October 30th, 3-2 win over Merrimack. And I'll tell you exactly why. 6 minutes in, Quinnipiac is down 1-0. Season on the line, mind you. They lose, they draw in regulation. They are done. They are done. No playoffs for them. They tie the game in the 55th minute. Go ahead off a beautiful corner kick to a goal in the 73rd minute, but then that's not it for the dramatics. They give up a tying goal with at the 85-31 mark. They needed to win no matter what. So what do? Now that they're tied? Score the game-winning goal 20 seconds later. Ramesh Delsu, a beautiful shot from the top of the box to give them the 3-2 win. Keeps their season alive, and then, you want to talk about getting momentum? 3 straight wins to close the season to make the MAC tournament. The stakes were there, the emotion was there, the game itself lived it up for these teams the first time they played as conference opponents. I don't think you could write it any better than what actually played out at the Quinnipiac Soccer and Lacrosse Stadium than what happened on October 30th.
I agree. I think this is an excellent game because it encapsulates what their season was in the aspect of having to overcome stuff. I just think for me, when you look at it from a broader picture, that women's soccer game was what made them realize that they really needed to get it together. And knowing that men's soccer, and don't get me wrong, I know women's soccer lost, but knowing that men's soccer then went on to lose in the playoffs, that's my reason of giving that.
I think I'd agree with you if women's soccer either went undefeated or won a MAC regular season title. Because neither team actually had that much postseason success compared to what they could have, I had to go with men's soccer for the exciting part of the actual game itself.
Fair enough.
Well, it is time for our final commercial break of the night. But don't go anywhere, as when we come back, we will be giving our final roars of the night. Stay tuned.
Here at Sports Pause, we like to have balance between having fun and working hard. Sometimes that competition we cover gets into our producing.
Tune in every Monday night at 9:30 at q30tv.com/watch for all the news, highlights, and more. This is Sports Pause.
Everyone has a ritual, that small thing that keeps us focused. A habit we never skip to clear our minds and elevate our performance.
But what do you do to keep your head in the game, to drown out the self-doubt and support your mental health? Because being your best isn't just about taking care of your body.
It's about taking care of your mind and mental health. Discover the resources you need to keep your mind focused and your mental health a priority.
Welcome back to Bobcat Breakdown. It's time for our final words, and I'll start us off. Hard work, dedication, and grit. A few words that can often be used to measure the success of a team or show that selfless attitude that pushes them to succeed throughout their season. But it's difficult to talk about this attitude and not speak about the two sitting directly next to me. Eli Ehlers and Zach Naffa, two individuals who have demonstrated that it is what you do behind the scenes that can make the biggest impact. On my right sits someone who since day one has poured hours into making the show a better place. Even though he may think it may go unnoticed, Eli is one of those guys who will put 110% into everything he will do and make sure that the product that is being shown is to perfection. He's incredibly driven, something that came to light especially when he came into the role of sports director, yet always remained the guy who I could go to whenever I needed a good laugh. He's done nothing but succeed this year, even when things got rough, and will continue to grow as the years go on. And now on my left, Zach. Zach is one of those people who will always put the success of others before himself, truly embodying a team mentality. He has been someone who I could count on no matter what throughout this year, and who constantly proves that at the end of the day, it's not about who you've known the longest, but rather who has been there when you needed it the most. Each show I have had the pleasure of watching Zach give it his all, and I know he will continue to do the absolute best he can going into next year, but also to the future beyond. I couldn't be more honored to have these two as some of my best friends, and will forever cherish our Wednesday adventures, random laughs, and admire their hard work, dedication, and the true passion that they put into their craft.
Coming into this year, I was scared. Going into my sophomore year as a solo executive producer was incredibly daunting. I didn't think I could do it. In October, it got tough. Late Monday nights became early Tuesday mornings, working on graphics and getting the show together. I hardly slept. I remember finally sitting down with the man to my left and saying, "I need your help." Life became fun again when Zach started executive producing. Getting to produce turned into a hobby, not a job. My passion for it grew more and more. The two of us became closer and closer. From trips up and down the East Coast for hockey, or the random food trips and talking about life, it felt like I had finally found my best friend. Producing has its moments, both good and bad, but the good almost always outweighs the bad, especially when you're working with such amazing people. For all the producers returning and the new ones joining the team, I have two challenges for you. 1, push yourself to be creative. Try the things you see on ESPN that you think would be amazing. Who cares if you swing and miss? This is the time to try. Don't be afraid to take creative risks. 2, create a welcoming environment. When you look back 5 years down the road, you won't remember that you had one bad show, but you will remember the environment you created and all the people you love seeing on Monday or Tuesday. The awards will come, but it's how you get to the award that matters the most. Take the time to get to know each producer as a person, because at the end of it all, it's about the relationships you make along the way. Thank you, NAFA, for pushing me to be the best human I can be each day.
3 + 1. 3 years as an undergraduate, 1 year as a graduate student. It's what drew me and so many others to Quinnipiac, the chance to fit 6 years of school into 4. But it didn't take long to realize everything you do is on an accelerated track. Not just classes, but maturing, finding internships and jobs, getting yourself involved. It's a wonderful opportunity, but there's a lot of pressure that comes with it. While many of my peers threw themselves into student media during our first year on campus, I didn't get involved right away. I focused on my classes and my friends, only occasionally broadcasting games and finding joy in that. Or at least that's what I told others and myself. In reality, I was nervous. Nervous of failing or embarrassing myself, and yet now, in my final year as an undergraduate student, I've gone all in. In the last 16 months, I've gone from only operating cameras to covering multiple sports as a beat reporter, including the men's ice hockey team, something I never would have imagined a year prior. But the most rewarding experience was becoming an executive producer for Bobcat Breakdown. After being a general member last year, I applied to be an associate producer this past fall. Then in October, I decided to challenge myself further and apply to be an EP alongside Eli. I was nervous, and it was an adjustment period for sure. I didn't think I was good enough for the position and thought about stepping down back to an AP where I was much more comfortable. But I didn't. And after Eli became sports director in March, I took on the role as the sole EP of Breakdown and have grown in so many ways. It has given me the confidence to branch out. I've been on a variety of shows, going from no on-air experience to appearing on news and both entertainment shows in addition to sports. And now I am extremely excited to say that I will be returning to Executive Produce Breakdown next year as a graduate student, something that never would have happened without the support of Eli and so many others like Kat. I've had the chance to produce so much content this year, but the greatest part of it all was making lifelong friends like the two joined alongside me, who besides making sure I get my caffeine every Wednesday at Aroma Joe's, have made me more confident in myself as a professional and as a person. So I leave you with this. Remember to believe in yourself, to try new things, take those chances. They can be scary, I know, but every one of us is talented and special and smart in their own right, and it's never too early to get started.
That is all the time we have here for Bobcat Breakdown this semester. Thanks for tuning in and spending your evening with us. Make sure to follow us on Instagram and X at Q30 Sports and check out our website at q30tv.com.
Thank you to everyone working hard behind the scenes and those who have supported the show all year long. A special thank you to all the producers who have worked on Bobcat Breakdown, including Mike Singer, Zach Tarenko, Ben Jurgen, Rose Carrata, Seb Lopes, Olivia Gruber, and Marcus King. Good luck to all the new producers for next year, and we hope you tune in for our first show on Tuesday, September 2nd. For Katrina Jablonski and Eli Ehlers, I'm Zach Naffa. Have a great summer, and we'll see you next year.